Make sure you don't talk about religion.
I could talk about anything.
We'll stop the religion talk now. No, we were just speaking about foiling because it intrigues me, the whole like you were saying earlier with the swells.
Yes.
You know, like it's far. It opens up a whole new world for what you're doing. You know, like because surfing, you pretty much got to chase the best wave. You got to find where it is. You got to chase your way up and down the coast.
Foiling opens up the whole ocean.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, because you're riding on that little foil thing underneath the water, every little bump becomes something you can ride. So you can ride a wave and then turn it into a little, pump all the way back out and then ride a wind swell.
Yeah.
Disappear up the coast without a motor. So
have you done it on jet ski?
I've done it behind the jet ski, behind a boat and stuff like that. But and also an e-foil. Got some amazing e-foils now, which is the electric ones.
Oh, electric. Oh,
yeah,
well.
Yeah. So basically you're got a little hand piece and you're running around on that. And that's really, really cool. I've been doing some work with the Foil Centre and they're putting together all these different bits of equipment. But I've got this foil that I just go forever on it and love it. So I've tried out a heap of different ones, but end up on this Takuma one that has heaps of balance, like has heaps of glide on it.
Yeah.
And
is that a more specialised one? Like that's not a starter one?
No, you can start on. Yeah, you can start on them basically. So they've gotten better and better in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So you start on something you could actually progress to now. You can start on basically the same foil. It's really about where you start and what you're told when you start and who you start with.
Because you're a bit of a guru on where is the best. I know this because I remember speaking to Phil Clayton one day and he was trying to find out where to surf. He goes, it's all good. I'll just run Trevor in the morning. He'll tell me exactly where to go. Because he won't. He'll just say, it's this way, it's blowing this, you should go here.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to ring him and find out.
I think I've always, because I love the ocean so much, I think I've always had that thing that wherever it's going to be, it's like the same as when you're doing a race. There's so many little things going on within that course that you figure you can get onto those waves. So it's the same as when you look at the whole coast and work out where the waves are going to turn up and what's the wind doing and what's the swell and everything else. And when I was really into it, I could tell you exactly where and when.
Yeah.
These days I'm into other things and I'm like, I'll just turn up and have a look myself, But
you don't follow it as closely.
Yeah,
don't
that's
have
right.
to. Because did you grow up here on the Gold Coast?
I was born in Melbourne. Family left when I was 3, travelled around Australia for 2 years, settled on the Gold Coast when I was 5, so grew up here the whole time.
Pretty much. I started from...
Joined Nippers, Surfers Paradise Nippers when I was 8 years old, under 9s.
Yeah.
And I'm now the president of the surf club, trying to give back after all these years.
That's full circle,
I'm 51,
isn't it?
so that's 43 years I've been in the surf club,
You must get long service leave.
Yeah, you get a long service leave and then life membership and all sorts of other stuff. So, yeah.
So that's a nice place, Surfers Paradise. It seems like more of an up-and-coming surf club now. Like it had dwindled off for a little bit there.
Yeah.
But they all do, don't they? They all sort of...
They go through waves.
It depends on where, so to speak. It depends on where the athletes sort of go because it's such a professional industry now. Where I mean, I guess it was when you were doing it too, but it didn't seem like... Because they had the Uncle Toby'S league.
Yep.
Did that mean that sort of you could... That was where the money was made? So you don't necessarily have to go to your club and different industries like that?
For sure, yeah. So basically you got nothing from your surf club and we raced in the Uncle Toby'S Super Series and it was professional and we got sponsorship from it and it was,
Didn't matter.
A really big deal and it was a good thing and what's happened more recently and Surf Lifesaving at its core is all about volunteering and rescuing. So it's all it's all no money, we're shaking the tin and everything else. So over that period of time, Ironmen and Ironwomen in particular became a draw card for nippers. Like the stronger clubs generally, holistically overall, have a decent surf sports squad as well. There are plenty that don't, but the ones that do have a strong surf sports squad usually have a strong nipper following as well and club following. And your patrolling membership, which is the people that are turning out to volunteer, 70% of them nationally on average come from the junior movement. So whatever you can do to inspire the junior movement, because it's not just the nippers, but it's their brothers and sisters or their mums and dads, and then other families come and join them. And then, so if you think about 7 out of 10 people that are on the beach patrolling actually come from the nippers in some way, shape or form. So how do you inspire the nippers and you've got 70% of your membership looked after?
Yeah.
So when you have at Surfers Paradise now, we have Ali Day, who's the World Ironman champion. We have Max Beattie, who was World Ironman champion in 2016. My son TJ, Hendy, Nathan Gray. So the 4 of those are all Nutrigrain level and a few guys chasing them. But then in the girls now, we've got Carly Northern, who's the current World Ironwoman champion, Bay Wilden Snedden, who's up and coming. And then just 2 weeks ago, we were joined by Courtney Hancock, who's previous world champion and Coolangatta Gold champion and everything else. And voted the second greatest Iron Woman of all time, and she's still got plenty of life, and she's amazing and passionate and powerful. She's just past 30, and she wants to do it for a few more years, and she's come and joined us, and she's just an amazing human, actually.
Yep.
So we go and visit all schools, and we do leadership work and all that sort of stuff. So we're trying to put this, rather than, oh, we're a patrols club or we're a competition club, we're basically saying we're an inspiration and personal development club. You know, when you join our club, you grow like you do in every club, whether it's through patrols, competition, or a combination of the both. They bring you back, you know, week in, week out. If you do that right, the Nippers have got something to follow, and they love it. So TJ, my son, who's on the circuit now, he's coach of the Nippers during the week, and his squad's growing and growing and growing. They're all like, we train with TJ, you know. So that's kids need someone to believe in.
Huge for kids, because if they can see them every day, like I know Kane, who we had in here, Kane next time, he's the same. He's Nippers now at Northcliff. And so that's, you can imagine that. How cool would that be when you're a young person to have that? Because they're looked up to like gods, aren't they? When they were, you would know, with Nippers and the young surf sports athletes, they're thinking, oh, you know, I need to. I can exercise with him. I can train with him. I can ride the waves with him. It's huge. So
we're doing on Tuesday afternoons. We've got a surf skills development session where we've got. I usually run it with a couple other people, and we sort of swap around. But our 14s to sort of 18, 19, some of our older members are just learning. I'm taking these guys to learn how to board, paddle, and swim, and hold their breath and dive deep, and just real skills development stuff. Then on one side I got TJ running all the Nippers, and the other side I got Zane Hamill, who's got the best Ironman and women's squad combination in the country, with a couple other clubs pretty close. And the three of us are training side by side, and we can join up for swims and anything else. Now, I worked for 3 years at Collingwood Footy Club, which is the biggest, footy club, probably with Richmond, in the biggest sporting code in the country. When those guys train, they're inside. You can't get access to them. You can't go kick the football with them at the same time. They can when they put on special days and everything else. But and the guys that are playing in the reserves and the other levels, they're not training next to, a Darcy Moore or somebody like that. So where Ali Day has actually got a cadet, under 15 paddling next to him. And it's really amazing. So it's such an accessible family-based sport.
I was going to say family. That's a lot what it seems to be based on.
Totally.
Very rarely, like I can't think of another sport. I'm sure there is, where the actual core of the sport is a volunteer industry. It keeps the roots grounded. It's really cool, because where you win a few things, and it doesn't matter what sport you're in or you're in business. If you get a few wins, look out for the ego. Because that little construct inside of our own mind starts to try and establish itself and go, maybe I'm ahead of the pecking order here now, And the ego is a very strong, elusive thing, because it happens inside of us and it doesn't announce its arrival. It just goes, oh, maybe I'm a somebody now, you know. So big time.
You're turning into something inside of yourself and don't even know you're doing it. And so the crazy thing about our movement is that even these guys that are very inspirational, they still have to go back and patrol. And they have to do their volunteer work. And it's just an opportunity for them. I'm not saying that they don't end up with egos, because a lot of them do. And we all have them, right? But that thing can help with keeping that ego from getting out of control, and people getting lost. And when it gets out of control, you lose yourself, and shit happens, and you start going downhill pretty fast. And which is a lot of my own experience, So it's really cool to have the kids that remind you of what it's all about, that their eyes are wide open and they've just made it through the shore break for the first time in their life. And they can't believe, they all of a sudden feel good about themselves, and they can't stop telling mum and dad about what TJ or so-and-so or Damien or someone, the coach said to them, and they got out the back and I was out there with so-and-so, and it's just like, so there's this belief in this beautiful thing happening. So you get this constant reminder from the Nippers that you're connected to it, but also the patrols, which it's right in the middle of it, is like, I got to actually go down and I carry the equipment down and set it up and sit there and watch and put all my gear on. I got to have my yellow gear on and my little skull cap and all this sort of stuff, and I might look a bit like a dick. No, you don't. You look like a lifesaver. So you be proud of it. So it's really cool.
It's the same with when they go training as well. You got to carry all your gear. Like, you guys have to go over the road, don't you? You got to lug everything over the road. You got to get down and train.
We've been pretty lucky. One of the reasons why our club's turned around and our membership's growing again is that we managed to secure our parking underneath the club. So we've actually probably got some of the best parking in Australia for a city surf club. It's over the road and one down the road as well.
A member.
You come and join, John. You'd be very welcome at our club, mate.
Absolutely.
But it's then We literally have to drive out of the car park and over the road and everything. So we're trying to do a couple of things to get a clubhouse a bit up the beach, over the road as well.
Yeah.
But Surfers Paradise Beach has 20 million visitors to the precinct every year. So literally, that's our job to look after those. So we were the second smallest club in the branch, just in front of Coogee-Mudlow Island. So we were just beating Coogee-Mudlow Island about 4 years ago, and we've done all these changes and everything, and our membership's basically doubled now, and getting stronger all the time. But we need to really triple it ultimately to get to the point where our guys are sharing the load of patrolling Australia's equal busiest beach with Manly and Bondi.
I was going to say that would be the iconic beach of Queensland almost, wouldn't
Absolutely.
it? And one of the top 5 of all of Australia.
Absolutely.
Is that Surfers Paradise iconic area?
Yeah, Surfers Paradise, Manly, Bondi, and then you have other beaches like Scarborough over in Western Australia, a couple of Victorian ones, that get really, really busy.
No one worries about those. Too far down, too cold.
But really, and Sunny Coast and stuff like that, but Surfers is right in the heart of this massive tourist thing, and everybody comes down, and it's great. And
especially if they're doing like you're doing Ironmans at night, or in the afternoon.
Yeah.
We used to have that at Curra where you have all the tourists come past.
Yeah, and they stand there and watch.
And they stand on your boards. And
that's right. They take photos.
You got to come out of the water and it's get off. It's on your board. Right. So it must be heavy at Surfers Paradise.
It is, and we kind of just teach the guys to encourage it, to embrace it.
Yeah, they want photos.
Get photos and do it, and enjoy the fact that people are looking at you going, "Who the hell's that?"
Yeah. I think it's someone famous.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say earlier about putting your ego in check. Like you were saying with TJ and Max and Ali with the guys, and sorry, who was the other guy?
Nath Gray, and then Zane Hamill, the coach. Yep.
So those guys getting some success,
yes,
and all of that. Is that something that because you're probably one of the most best people to have in your corner for them, being someone who's been there, done that, and you can see the trappings of a little bit of success and a little bit of notoriety.
Yeah.
So you sort of in their ear a little bit saying, hey, just...
Oh, totally. And
chill out here.
Zane's really good with that too. He's all about winning on all levels and becoming the whole person and the whole human. That's what we're concentrating on, from nippers right through to Kellogg's Nutri-Grain champion and world champion and all that sort of stuff. Is like, hey, that's all great.
Yeah.
But who are you? Can you hold a conversation? Can you connect with people? Do you feel like giving of your time? Because that's your real measure of success. Are you present and are you here?
Yeah.
Or are you off in all your plans and wandering around propped up by what you've achieved? So our guys are really amazing, and we've attracted them to us because that's what we've been going for. So there's probably some people that haven't gone to us because maybe they weren't ready for it or whatever, but ultimately everybody gets to the point where they go, this is all bullshit. I need to start to be more myself.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool journey for that. There's an old saying, before the fall comes the pride.
Yeah.
I remember toe surfing years ago, and we had a bunch of, famous, well-known surfing friends that we all toe surfed together with, and all our clubby mates, and we're all kind of watermen together.
Yep.
We'd have amazing experiences, and I remember one day, it was the day after the biggest day I'd ever surfed on the Gold Coast, and it was massive the day before, and we'd rolled ducks and had this incredible time, and we put them all back together, and we're out there, and it was super glassy this day and perfect, and I was flying down a wave on a toe board, and the wave's like what we call 12 foot, probably 25 foot face, but barrelly, perfect, beautiful, big wave way out to sea off the Stratty Bommy. And all the boys were on the inside. And I just remember leaning over to do this turn like, watch this, boys,
Yeah.
And just before that, I felt really confident. And then in that moment, I wanted to kind of like show them.
Yeah.
And my board skipped out. I got smashed. I went over the falls. I got the beating of a lifetime.
Yeah. As you'd expect in a wave like that.
As I was getting absolutely trashed by this thing, like trying to rip my arm off over my head and everything. And I had this moment where I went, oh my God, you just got cocky.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as I had the realization, it's like the ocean was going to throw me into the bottom another time.
Yeah.
As soon as I had the realization, it was like it went and stopped and brought me back to the surface. And I went, oh wow. It was like I created that whole experience. So I never forget that thing is like confident is this fine line between confident and cocky.
Oh yeah.
And confident is actually right on the edge, and you're actually almost like you do feel very sort of supremely confident. And it's funny in people that get to elite level of sport, they get right there. But then the ego comes in, and any insecurities from childhood or anywhere where I was the runt of the litter at some stage or whatever, the ego comes in and goes, look at me now, boys, or whatever. And it's just this little thing that was suppressed comes up and tries to reassert itself.
Yeah.
And it latches onto this idea of I'm going great. And I always remember later in my life going, oh my God, all the love and support around me would help me win something and achieve something. But then the ego in me would go, yeah, we did. You know, the ego would like it, that it was like another person inside, you know, the alter ego. You know,
so leading up to it was like a team effort. Once you won, you'd done it.
Once you won, it's me. It was all me, you know. Like, and I wasn't outwardly, openly like that. A lot of people would say, "Oh, you were humble," and you were. I was like, no, but inside, I was just playing the game and learning how to keep that at check.
Is that what fueled you? The ego? Do you think?
I think it was part of the fuel. It's what fueled the ballsy attack on things. You know, just go like that. The anger moments.
Yeah.
But what really deep down fueled me was wanting to be free. So, you know, if you go under the ego, why do I want to feel better and stronger and faster? Is because when I do, I feel like I rise above everything else and I feel free. I don't have to answer to anyone else or any rules or anything else.
Right, yeah. So
if you cut down for below the winning at all costs, because then I feel free. I get the sponsors, I get the money, I get the attention. So this construct is building inside of me of, I've just got to keep this going. And so then for us, we win the world title. It wasn't on again for 2 years. It's like awesome because I'm now world champion for 2 years. You know, 2 years sitting pretty, I can lose everything else, but I'm still the world champion, you know. And then as it approached, you get really, really nervous. Like, oh, anxiety. No. You know, and then if you could win another one, it's like another 2 years. So at the same time, I've got this internal thinking dialogue, constructive persona or personality or identity that was built off of what I've won. And I'm getting free stuff given to me and I'm having the time of my life and I'm attracting attention of all the ladies and I'm like, it's all this sort of stuff is kind of cool, right?
Yep.
So because all of those things make you feel like you're a bit free. You know, you're not actually down there battling with everybody else. You're not fighting for scraps. Yeah, a bit untouchable and all this sort of stuff. And I think everybody experiences what it's like to, and now I'm riding this hydrofoil, and you rise up above the water, and it's the same sort of feeling, but without the ego. But it wants to come back in, by the way. I become a good foiler.
Yeah.
But literally, it's that feeling of floating up above everything else and actually being able to connect one wave to the next, not paddle back out and do the hard yards. And when you're really flying, it feels like that. You win a race, and it flows to the next one and the next one. But the trap is, you go from confident and this little part of you that felt like a piece of shit when you were younger. I got bullied a bit and got pushed around.
Yep.
And inside of myself, at some point, I had a little internal snap and went, I'm never going to be beaten again, or I'm never going to be bullied again, or whatever. But what I really wanted to be was free, strong enough, not above the fight, above the battle, not being able to be pulled back into it. And then I won so many, it was like all of a sudden it's like the greatest of all time, or whatever that title comes in, like, yeah. And it's literally like, it's even harder to get out of that because it's just a load of shit as well. It's a nice thing to be able to go, I achieved all those goals and everything else, but then the big trap is, am I still making who I am about the journey that I've been on?
Yeah.
But ultimately it becomes this internal thing that now you can't really switch it off. So you go home to your wife or you go home to someone else, and when push comes to shove, you go, hang on a second, I'm kind of above the law here.
Yeah.
If you look at the trophy cabinet, you know, you'll see that I'm probably right in this argument because I win. You know, like right. It's this weird thing, and I'm being kind of funny about it, but it's like this weird thing that your relationships and everything fall apart because you think, I'm just doing it when I'm racing.
But you have to take that to be so successful. Do you have to bring that into your everyday life for everything? It becomes everything.
Well, it actually sits there laying dormant, as in when push comes to shove, I'm still the man.
Yeah,
you know, and that's the trap. That's the alter ego, and that's the win at all costs, because it starts to cost you, because you lose connection, you lose relationships. People just think, he's only going to stick around me if he gets something out of me. And it's never your intention at the start, but you start to get taken over by this identity. And this is, I'm speaking about myself personally, and I've help so many other people out of this whole thing, and I help athletes and you know, movie stars and musicians and stuff to say, no, that's not you, dude. Yeah. Get out of that. That's not you. Because when I did change it, I started to win. I broke all my own records from, oh my goodness, that's not me. And so it didn't actually help me win. It just took ownership of the wins.
Yeah.
And it helped me feel like as if I was a winner, you know. But actually, when I got rid of that, I felt actually free, the freedom that I was always shooting for. So I could be with anyone, anywhere, and I just felt relaxed. I felt in my own body. I felt a sense of love for life and connection with people, and just kind of fallen in love with life again. And that's win on all levels rather than win at all costs.
I like that transition there, win at all levels.
Yeah, out of the head and into the heart, probably.
Yeah. So when did that take over? Because you were was that right in your prime of success.
1993, yes.
Yep.
I just lost the Uncle Toby'S series to Guy Andrews, to Australian title to Guy as well. World Championship, we were in an off year.
Yep.
My uncle had died, and he was like a second father to me.
Yep.
And I was really kind of grieving about all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
But instead of grieving, I was more angry. I wasn't honest because I was becoming bulletproof, so I didn't have to feel anything because I could just win stuff. And the crazy thing was that was the beginning of the end for all of that, because my second dad died. You know, he'd grown up with me.
Yeah.
And he was like, my dad was like the white knight. You know, just amazing man. Never swore. You know, certainly I never swore in front of women. You know, what did he used to say? I can't remember right now. It'll come to me soon. But instead of swearing, he'd say like he'd break a tool or something. He'd go, rotten, damn, jumped up, never come down, flaming mongrel of a thing. He'd never swear, you know. That was my dad, and he was just he is an amazing man. And my Uncle Jack, he smoked from when he was 11 years old, and you know, probably womanized, all that sort of stuff. He was told dirty jokes and everything. You'd walk past him, he'd whack you over the back of the head, and I'd turn around and he'd go, what was that for? And he'd go, that was for bloody nothing. Christ help you if you do something.
Yeah.
You know,
the polar opposite.
He was the polar opposite. Yeah. And he was just a beautiful, loyal supporter and everything else. And he passed away, and so I lost that part of me that said, above all else, have fun.
Yep.
Because he made sure that I was having fun all the time, because he never took anything too seriously. And I lost that part, and it was like, I was devastated, you know. I was just completely destroyed, and I didn't know how to tell anybody. And I had, you know, Craig Riddington said to me, who I raced with, and he said to me, I'd never seen you like that. He came to the funeral, and I couldn't stop crying, you know. And he didn't know what to do or how to help me. And we're all Grant Kenny, Guy Leach, Dwayne Tyers, Rideau, then Guy Andrews, and you know, Phil Clayton, Nathan Meyer, other people later. We're all best mates, you know. We all looked out for each other, and I was devastated. But basically what happened was I responded to it by the party that I was having after each race. What I did was I had it for longer, you know. Right, and if I could get away with a few of us going to the pub the night before or 2 nights before we went to the event, we started doing that. And it was like, I had this like, well, I've lost this, you know, one of my best mates, my uncle. Bugger it, who cares? You know, I had this doesn't matter anymore sort of thing, and which is obviously a dangerous thing to do.
Slippery slope, isn't it, that one?
It's slippery slope. And I was never a drug person. It was never my thing, but drinking after races and stuff, I grew up in that beer culture. Yeah. And that was, you know, just started drinking longer and staying out longer and everything else. And then in the gap between one race and the next over the Christmas break, it was like 8 or 9 nights in a row, you know. Yeah. And what it was really was a sign that I was lost, I was hurting, and I was looking for something. So at the same time, my relationship's crumbling, I'm losing myself and everything else. And that was the turning point for me, really. And having this big night out one night and like having 50 drinks, you know, we were getting marked on our arms and got to 50 drinks, and everyone was cheering the people that were still left. And then I realised that none of my mates were there. I was actually out with a bunch of strangers, and all my mates had all were asleep by now. And I literally walked out the front in Manly in Sydney, walked out the front, and I realised no one was there, and I went, what's happened? And I was stone cold sober. Literally came completely out. It was like a spiritual experience. I literally was like stone cold sober in a moment, and I went, what have I become? Where have I ended up? Like, what's going on? And it was literally, that's when I met Keith Maitland, who was a chiropractor. Yep. I walked into his studio, and he basically stood me up, didn't touch me, looked at me, and he said, 2 things. One, you seem to have some intolerances. I think you might be dairy intolerant. And I didn't say anything at the time, but I was like, holy crap, like chocolate's keeping me alive at this point in time, and chocolate milkshakes and ice cream is the only thing keeping me alive. I can't give up dairy. And because stress and everything else. I was 3 times world champion at that stage. And he also said, and you appear to have some emotional issues. And he said, he goes, looking at you, he said, I think you got some anger issues, like some suppressed anger. And he actually said to me, never touched me, doesn't know my story or anything. I said, he goes, it's like a father figure. You're angry like with a father figure. Has something happened? And I'm like, oh, my uncle just came to my mind straight away. My uncle just passed away, you know, a few weeks back and a couple of months back. And but I'm not angry with him. I'm sad, you know. And he said, no. He goes, you said it angrily. Yeah. You know, and he said, no, I want you to write a letter to him and then just go post it in the rubbish bin, address it and everything else. what you're angry with him, just the whole lot, just get the whole lot out, And I was like, oh, okay, who is this lunatic? This guy's crazy. And he said, look, your body's telling me if you don't make a few changes, you won't win another world title, blah, blah, blah. You're really struggling. And, if you want me to help you, come back tomorrow and bring some food samples and we'll get started. And I looked at him in the face and with my normal front, shop front smile and went, okay, yeah, thanks, And literally when he told me I had anger issues, inside I was thinking, who does this guy think he is? Like I was just like, I was doing backflips inside of myself, like pacing the room.
Yeah.
But looking at him still smiling, thinking, where did he come? My manager, Jeffrey Shoecraft, had sent me to him. Like, Jeffrey, I'm going to kill him. Who's this guy he sent me to? He's a lunatic. And literally I left there thinking this guy's crazy. I drove down the road. I got 2 kilometres down the road. I drove over Burley Hill and I was going, he's crazy, da-da-da-da-da. And I went in with a full-blown tendonitis in both shoulders, but my right shoulder had been aching for 7 or 8 years. Anti-inflammatories, icing, TENS machines. My hip was all weird and I was a constant hip ache, like right through my right side. My right arch had collapsed and I had this really strange feeling in my right side. My whole right side was buggered. And later on in Eastern medicine and spiritual practices, they tell you that's your doing, your male side. It's and that was like the side that was collapsing because I wasn't actually able to keep it up anymore, which is what he was saying. You're not going to win another one unless you do something different. Yep. And anyway, I've been aching for years, and I literally drove up over the hill, and I'm thinking, this guy's crazy. Who's he telling me that it won't win another world title? This is just going over in my head. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it was like I went to steer, and I felt my right shoulder, and it wasn't aching. And my right hip wasn't aching and my foot wasn't aching. I was going, what? And then in my mind I went, he didn't even touch me like this. And then this voice in my head, which used to say to me in competition, this voice used to sing to me, you got to go your own way, go your own way, while I was running around. And I'd run around, everyone was going that way, and I'd go, I got to go that way. And I'd go that way and pass 20 people. And this strange...
It was an instinct sort of a thing.
Instinct voice, but it was very much a voice. And it literally said, he told you the truth.
Yeah.
And I went, and I had this crazy, it was probably the first conscious spiritual experience I had where I went, what just happened? Like I drove down the road, like I was floating down the road, like I was foiling years before foiling existed. And I went back to him to find out, half to prove him wrong and half to find out what was going on. And we went through that year. He started working with me emotionally, psychologically, clearing some baggage, doing some work with me, introduced me to a bunch of people. It was more consciousness work, which you could say spiritual work, but it's very much no denomination. It was very much become aware. Come on, you're not just a body and a mind. There's a soul here. Like, start to explore what that is, that kind of thing. And that
would have been controversial back then too, wouldn't it?
Well, I didn't tell anybody.
93, 90, was it 93, 94?
93, 94.
Yes, what's that? 25 years ago.
25 years ago. Nobody knew.
Nobody knew.
So literally what happened was, and this is really cool from what we were talking about before we came on air, but what happened was I came out that year and I got, in 10 international races, I got 8 firsts and 2 seconds. Yeah. I trained less. I was smiling on the line. My whole body corrected itself. I know I have never iced since, never had anti-inflammatories, never had antibiotics. I actually had a staph infection, had half a thing of antibiotics, finished it like 10 years later, whatever it was. Haven't had anything since, right? It sent me down a crazy path around healing and what we're capable of, and Eastern path and all that. Came out and raced the next year. We had 7 Uncle Toby'S races. I got 5 firsts and 2 seconds. And literally the guys would win and they'd go, all right, mate, we've got free tickets to so-and-so. And I'd always turn up and get the drink card and all that sort of stuff. And it was like, the Pied Piper led to the party. And I go, nah, boys, I'm not coming out tonight. And they'd be like, what? So they'd all go out. Yeah. And the talk was that I would become a born-again Christian.
Oh, yes.
Because that was the only thing that they could relate it to. It's like he seems like
he's found God.
He's looking into your eyes and he's asking you deeper questions. He must have found God, And to be honest, what I found was myself, and I found a bit of truth, and I found a bit of connection. And you start to go into, that's what they're looking for. I started to understand what the yogis were talking about and everything else, and it took me down a path of healing and amazing things, which is, I became a counsellor and I started doing the same things for other people, and I've done thousands of hours now of one-on-one work with people around the world, and bumped into all these different well-known people that got lost in the same path and helped them out of it to say, hey, you're on an awesome track, but just temper what you're doing with a bit more consciousness of what else is going on, because you're not just a body and a mind, there's a soul at play. And it's not a set of rules that you have to live by, and it's not right or wrong, good or bad, and it's not heaven or hell. In fact, that's an obscuring of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's about consciousness, and moment to moment, you can become aware of who you are, and you're like, I know why I'm in this situation. And so life's opened up since then.
Yeah, that's right. And do you see, like, when you're watching TV or watching sports people or people in a area of success, do you look at them and think, this is going to end badly? I can just see the way this person, the way their persona, I can see the way they're behaving. I can also see their ego.
Yeah, and it's a funny thing because not in a negative, judgmental sort of way, not like, oh, good luck with that, pal, or
just I can help you.
You know, it's more like it's more like, ooh, it's like, ooh, okay, from experience, like it's I just see it happening. But I was a lifesaver, right? So from 13 years of age, I got my SRC and then bronze medallion at 15, and you rescue people. And what I learned when I was rescuing people was that the ones that you go grab out and you take them back to the beach, 5 minutes later, they actually go back and hop back in the water and do the same thing again sometimes, unless they got really deep into it. And so after a while, when I got a bit more confident, I'd let them stay in a little bit longer and let them drift right over. And then I'd actually go over to them and I'd say, do you want to lift now? Like when they got a bit of a fright, because they needed to realize what they're in. And I'd bring them in. And then I learned later that, okay, go out again, and this time don't pick them up and say, do you want help? And they go, yeah. And I'd go, just walk 5 steps that way, or swim across here, or whatever. And I'd teach them how to get back on the bank and go sideways across the rip. And they'd go in and they'd come in, they go, oh, thank you so much. And so there's this old thing, and my wife and I, Joe and I, were talking about it yesterday, about how if a bird's trying to break out of an egg, we've all probably seen that thing, if it's trying to crack its way out of the egg, and it's like, might take a day or two. But if you take the shell off, or you break it open for it to let it out, usually it will perish. Yeah. Okay. Because its chances of survival are completely connected to the strength it gains from getting itself out of that egg.
Is that right? Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah.
So particularly some species, they have to actually get the strength to get out of the egg. And while they're doing it, the egg's, holding them in there until that. So it's almost like, if I can get myself out of the egg, I can survive in the world. And it's a bit like if we changed EGG to EGO, the ego is that I've tried to rescue so many people and they go jump straight back in again. It's like, no, that's my ego. That's just like a spiritual bullshit, trying to help other people. And it's like, I'm just learning to observe more and actually say, just be there for people. And when they're ready, they'll want to change it. And it's such a, I don't know, it's a strange thing because it's like a weird superiority you get that I can see what they're going through, and it's just, that's ego as well. It's like it's every turn of the corner, everywhere. You just go, oh my God, I'm still not myself.
We had Mike Campbell, the man coach. He's a man coach. Here. We had him in here a few months back, and like he was speaking, he's like, first of all, you got to say to people, do you want me to help you?
Yes.
They're asking it, and it happens. He was relating it to your wife and your partner. He was saying, look, they've got a problem. Oh, this and this. Well, do you want me to help you, or do you just want me to listen?
Yes.
There's two different things.
Absolutely.
Because as a male, you're a fix-it person. So you want to come in straight away and go, I can fix that. Do this, this, and this. But they don't want that. That's not what they want. They want you just to listen, and then let them make the mistake again and again. And then at some stage or another, they're going to go, okay, help me. I'm done. I've gone too far.
Yeah. No, that's right. And also, help, listen, and if you want help, there's this next question. Look, you got to get yourself out of it. You have all your own answers. So I'm going to listen, but what do you think you should do about it? And you're really there for a space for someone to find their way out of it rather than to be told. And then once they go, oh yeah, and then you go, it's cool, you can see the way. Are you willing? And they go, oh, no, I'm not. Well, what would you have to give up?
I'm drowning now.
What would you have to give up? You know, and there's like, we have to give up this, this, and this. Are you willing? And they go, no, I'm not. And you go, no problems. It's all good. No worries. And then 5 minutes later they go, I am now. They think about it, but it's
funny saying, like, if you don't sacrifice for what you want will become the sacrifice.
Yeah, right.
And I like that when it comes to, I tell people that I'm certainly not a person of advice, but if someone says, because I work a lot, probably too much, some people say, but it's like, well, I'm just trying to get I don't want to sacrifice these things. That's why I'm working, and it's to my detriment sometimes, but I don't want to sacrifice. I refuse to sacrifice what I want. And that's I always have that in my head going over and over and over. But
stand for it. And
but like you said earlier about it, when it all costs, it does cost. Costs.
So I raced and trained really hard to win, and then had all the costs from it, and then got all the benefits as well, but they were like equal. So whatever I won, I lost again. You know, but I didn't lose it over here.
At the time. But they cost in the future. You know, like you might have got a new car, but you lost a relationship.
Yeah, totally. And there's always, it's like the law of balance. So there's a whole thing, Newton's laws of, you know, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, and they're very helpful laws in the third dimension. And the third dimension is where the body mind is. You know, where our construct is. But when we start to explore beyond that, there's some other helpful spiritual laws or things that are, you know, really, really interesting, expansive. But one of them is it's all about law of attraction. You know, so if you believe that it takes this much work, well, then that's your program. You know, so then you won't allow yourself to win or to succeed or get that unless you do that much work. So there's an old saying, what's the hard work one? Well, there's multiple ones, isn't it? No pain, no gain. And nothing good was ever done achieved without hard work, or something like that. They're actually powerful sayings, but if they become your mantra, they're very limiting as well, because I actually am in love with my wife, and that's not hard work. You know, I spend beautiful time flying with my kids, and that's not hard work. I ride a foil now, and when I get up, once you get going, it's actually not hard work. If you try and make it hard, it gets hard. It actually goes against it. So there's some of the really flowing, beautiful things that women are more connected to, the feminine, the yin energy is more connected to, that comes when you break those mindsets and go, oh, that's good, but that's half the picture. You know, no pain, no gain. So, okay, that means that in our mind, we've got a little program set up that I've got to lose something or get some sort of pain to get the gain. So these are all limiting beliefs.
So you're saying like you don't necessarily have to work that hard to achieve something. You can
work smart. Work more connected. Collaborate with more people. Find another way to do it. And if the amount of work it takes to do it, when you've explored all those collaborative options, creative and collaborative options, if the amount of work taken to do it, takes you away from your own consciousness, if you lose your presence in exchange for future happiness, it's probably not worth it, because when you get to the future, you never really get there.
Well, there are other ones where, you know, you sit in the computer, I'm doing all my paperwork and that, and then, you know, my daughter comes in and I get mad at her because she's making noise. And boy, what a piece of shit I feel like when I get back and I send her to go away. I'm like, oh God, I feel like, you know, and you can see it in that respect where it's like, oh, this just isn't worth it. It's not worth me being in here.
There's an old story about the guy that's sitting in his office and he's doing a meditation, which is the loving kindness meditation, where I have loving kindness for myself, I have loving kindness for my family, I have love, and he's right out to the edge of the world, to the edge of the universe, you know. And he's like, I have loving kindness for the world. And his daughter opens the door, and it's a true story. And his daughter opens the door and says, Dad, when are you going to come do this? He's like, close the door, I'm meditating. You know, like, it's literally like, oh, loving kindness, is it? You know,
it's the whole purpose.
Or you're doing, you know, some sort of yoga or qigong or some sort of meditation. The dog comes and leans against you or does something or barks, and you're like, you kick the dog, you know. So it's not that that's the worst thing in the world, because we've all done that crappy stuff, but it's actually going, whoa, waking up and going, what's that? You know,
it's almost like
I'm not doing what I think I'm doing. Or you do something else where you yell at your kids, and halfway through yelling at them you go, oh my God, I've become my mother or my father. The one thing I said I'd never do, you know.
Or a lot of it's, I heard someone say to me once about when you're mad with your children, like, and you know, you might get a smack on the bum or something, not that I do, but you know, you get mad at them and just want to shake them. Are you mad at what they've done, or are you just in a bad mood? Because I try my best to think like that every time. I'm like, well, the only reason I'm mad is because of my mood, not because of the action of what they did. And that's really hard to, and it's probably the ego again, you know, my ego kicking in, thinking like, they should do what I say. Now I tell my daughter to do something, she just rolls her eyes because I'm not the scary guy.
Well, that's the good thing though. That's what you want to get to. And in the old paradigm and our parents and grandparents' paradigm, the old paradigm was you have to stay the scary one to stay in control. You know, and actually right now we want our kids to be equals. You know, that's not out of control going anywhere with no boundaries. It's actually them discovering the boundaries through good conversation and reflective conversation backwards and forwards. And how did that feel when you did that? It didn't feel very good, Dad. I did that. You know, I yelled at that person. So what was going on for you? I had just this thought in my head that I had to yell. You know, and did it make you feel good at the time? It did at the time. And then what afterwards? Is that thought you? You know, there's all these things you can do.
I try and say, like, I've done I made this mistake too.
Yeah,
when I was your
that's
age.
a really powerful one, isn't it? Yeah.
Because I'm like, don't think I'm coming from a pedestal up here.
Oh,
like
I know that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did this big time.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's so like that's a whole nother discussion altogether.
Yeah,
But
isn't
like
it?
just trying to, because then I'm sitting on my computer also thinking in my mind, by me doing this, I'm providing for you.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's really hard
and
to.
that creates a resentment and a frustration inside.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You know, because I'd really like to be out doing this, or getting back in the ocean, or going to do whatever it may be, or watching a show, or having a beer, or whatever it is that we like to do.
Yeah.
And there's this, if we're not doing something unconditionally, if we're carrying a bit of resentment for it, but it's worth it because I'm trading this off for a future happiness. Well, we're carrying something forward with us. So we can still do the same action, but just question, am I doing it completely unconditionally?
Yeah.
You know,
or
am I carrying a little resentment?
Do you find people hard, people you work with, to acknowledge that they resent other people?
Not when they're ready. So whenever, and that's what you were asking before, is that, do you want me to listen to you, to want me to help you? Is there's something in Eckhart Tolle, who wrote The Power of Now, right? Yep. It's an amazing book. Oprah Winfrey, of all the people she'd spoken to and met, someone asked her in I think it was some magazine, Esquire or some magazine, said we all had to leave the planet in a hurry on a spaceship, and you were tasked with the only person to take one book with us, what would it be? And she said The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. So that's how profound this guy is, right? So Eckhart Tolle, I can't even remember what we're talking about.
Resentment and acknowledging that when you're ready.
Yeah, he basically said anything will change when you have the inner readiness. So the inner readiness. So a conversation about spiritual concepts and everything else, for someone who's not ready, just goes, what the hell are they talking about? Yeah. But someone who is ready goes, oh, I know exactly what they're talking about. How do I suddenly know that? Yeah. But it's the same thing, whether we're letting go of resentment, or realizing that I'm holding a grudge, or willing to actually correct a relationship with someone. Soon as we're ready, it'll happen. And we are so powerful. Like, soon as we're actually ready, like as a spirit, as a being, as a more of a consciousness, as opposed to a personality, that no, I'm holding on to that. I'm holding on to that. It's like, oh, you know. I
was speaking to my wife about that the other day, about how back probably like 93 when you were going through all that, and now people back then, probably maybe predominantly in the 80s, if they were spiritually enlightened or thought about a bit more holistically, like you think like, or other people shouldn't, they were considered hippies, or just, it was really not normal, and probably just looked at a little bit sideways.
It goes back to what we were saying before, is that period through for me when I started waking up, people would say and then they'd say you've changed. Yeah. And then they were mad at me, and then there was rumours around that I'd had a mental breakdown and all this sort of stuff, and I found it was spread by one of my friends, and it was like, wow, it's kind of crazy. And then I realised, well, I'd kind of disconnected a little bit, so that when I've disconnected, they're making up stuff in their mind, and I came back full circle and reconnected. But a lot of what they thought I was going through wasn't actually happening. But ultimately what ended up happening is those same people end up ringing me at a certain stage going, I'm going through this, can you help me? And it's like, well, that's actually what I'd love to do, because I've been on the journey. I'm not any better. I've just done a couple of laps around the block, just before you did. That's all it is. I'm just a couple of rotations around the spiral in front of you. That's all it is. Yeah.
And so now, so considered crazy almost in that time, and like you said, you were judged and everything, but now it's so much more with mediums like even podcasts or like books along it, and celebrities, because that's a little bit when they sneeze, everybody else gets a cold, doesn't it? Because what they do, it sort of filters down to everybody else. So now people going down that avenue and looking after themselves and being a little bit more holistic in their approach to things is far more popular. It's certainly not frowned upon because it's such a common thing now. So
I'm just foiling this morning with Pete Evans. And Pete has been
the chef.
Yeah, he's been on the leading edge of these conversations.
He's copped it, hasn't he?
He's absolutely copped it, and he's had information from the world's leading cardiologist with a 1.5 hour interview of all the information behind why he's saying this stuff, and then he goes out and says the summary of it. And then someone says, "Whoa, that's the biggest load of garbage," and science tells us. And it's like, that science tells you, but what about this science over here that's actually peer reviewed and everything else? And so
there's confirmation bias with all those things too.
and we follow the money back to who's actually paying the bills here. But Pete's been a major, changer and pusher and mover of the whole thing. And literally, so what he was saying then,
Yeah.
you know, and he'd get someone on Facebook saying, mate, thank you for telling me about this diet or telling me about paleo or primal or whatever it might be, and it's changed, and I've kicked my type 2 diabetes, and all these amazing testimonials after the doctors tell him to go down this path. And I'm not saying one way or the other, but explore all your options and follow your own truth. And I said before, you've got all your own answers inside of you, and how you can tell is someone says something and there's a slight little bit of lightning inside of you, go, there must be some truth in that because I feel good. I don't know what you just said, but keep talking to me.
Yeah.
So something inside of you, the truth in me recognizes the truth in what you've just said. So Pete Evans, massive pusher of those sort of things, right? And then you hear somebody like Joe Rogan, who has all these crazy different people on and everything else, and he's gone down the whole path of talking about psychedelics and all that sort of stuff, and that's blowing people's minds because they're talking about tribal ceremonies and they're talking about because they were opening conversation about beyond body, mind, body, food, mind, nutrition, mind, and into energy and into who are we really beyond all the rules, because you weren't allowed to have those conversations before. And it's like, well, good, people are having them. Yeah. Because go and explore who you really are, It's really cool.
He seemed to have done Pete Evans like a full circle. Like, I'm certainly outside looking in. I don't know a great deal about it. I've just sort of watched. First of all, he lost a ton of weight. Which shows he's sort of gone down some sort of because chefs
stopped eating all the carbs and all that.
Being a chef is such a you're getting caught in a loop where you're fine dining, which isn't always fine dining. Probably isn't always the most healthy food around, but it tastes the best and everything. And I can see how you could get trapped in that, because what if he goes to a 5-star Michelin restaurant and they have the best thing with the duck sauce, it's full of sugar and everything, and he wants to try it.
Oh, and he will.
There you go. But if he lives that life up to it, then he can allow himself those.
Oh, you can absolutely. It's all part of it. So,
but instead of eating that all the time, and obviously that shows. Point. Yeah.
So that same thing we're talking about before, that little inner suppressed part of us that's felt not very big in the world. Yeah. We have a bit of sugar, we immediately have a dopamine hit. Yeah. Away we go. We get a flush of it, so we feel better about ourselves. If we throw an Instagram post on before they took the tag thing off. Yep. And it got several hundred followers, likes or whatever else, so you're growing in followers. It's the short-term dopamine loop. So people go back and look at how many more people have liked it. Yeah. Because every time it happens, you don't realise there's a little switch going on and you're flushing your body with dopamine again. So you're craving. So we start thinking about what's the next video or the next photo I can put. So these are all different examples, but it's sugar, it's alcohol, it's sex, it's winning, it's money, it's success, it's fame, it's Insta-fame, it's whatever it is. It's like people saying, oh, you're the bomb, It's girls liking us, boys liking us. It's whatever it is that creates our little dopamine hit. Yeah. And we get a flush of it, and immediately, I talked about freedom before, immediately we feel like we rise above the stress and tension of the world, and we'd have to deal with that for a moment, and that's what we're actually craving. So Pete was talking about, he saved his own life because he was a chef and had all the other temptations of being a chef and all the fame and everything else. And he basically not only saw that the weight going on in his own health and things deteriorating, everything else, but he also knew to make food really good in all the rules that he followed, you add sugar and salt, all the other spices and things, but you put those things in and you make it super sweet and people go, that was the best meal ever, and you sell books and you do whatever else. And he was like, whoa. And then he was seeing his chef mates just lose themselves, heart attacks, things going on left, right and centre, and he kind of had an awakening and went, oh, I'm peers and equals with all these guys, and look at us, we're the unhealthiest bunch, And he had a little consciousness shift, and he was all constantly working on improving himself, and he just he was always going to go down that path because that's who he is. He was born to live that life, to be a truth speaker and a seeker and speaker. But he actually went, funny what you said is he went, people aren't ready to speak the truth about spirit and everything else and consciousness, but I can talk to them about food. And when they eat the food, they can have less sugar and they can go down a path and that will lead to a conversation about consciousness. Yeah. So he used the nutrition conversation to get all the way through over the last few years to the latest book that he wrote, which is HEAL, which is Healthy Eating and Living. Yeah. And he talks about all the modalities. He sees a kinesiologist. He does all different things. Yeah. He talks about everything he's using to shift his consciousness. So these conversations, we're talking about the inner readiness in a person, but there's also an inner readiness in society. Yeah. In a town, in in a group mind, a group think, a group consensus. And then slowly but surely your group starts to shift and your family wants something different, and, you know, it changes bit by bit. But there's always got to be a pioneer and someone who's an idiot and a dickhead and goes there first, you know, and, what's that guy doing? And I've had my fair share of that. So.
I was about to say, that was you? Did you feel like that was you? And
yeah, but I had to go there. I had to go there for myself. I wasn't going there for other people. I was certainly going there for my own health and everything, but I really actually went there for my own kids. You know, I've got my first wife, Jackie, and my second wife, my current wife, Jo, my beautiful wife. And I call them first and second rather than ex and current because, you know, they're both just an amazing, beautiful part of my story. But I've got 2 children with each, Christelle, TJ, Bailey and Charlie, between 31 and 17, you know. Well, she says she's 17, but she's still 16. But but I actually, you know, I realised that I need to help myself, but I needed to continue down this path when I was getting criticised for it for them. Like I kind of just had this feeling, I can't explain it, except there's no way I'm not going to turn over this stone and end up having them under the stone that I haven't turned over. Because, you know, I later learned, it kind of came to me, you know, I was looking at a bed sheet, and a bed sheet looks like one big sheet, but it's actually thousands of fibres of cotton connected, interwoven in cross patterns together. So you look at it, you pick up the middle of a bed sheet, this one sheet, and you pick up the middle between your thumb and your finger and you lift it up, and the whole bed sheet comes up because you've grabbed the middle, but what you've actually grabbed is only a few bits of cotton right in the middle. But because they're connected to everything else, the whole lot comes up. Similarly, if you suspend that bed sheet and drop a rock in the middle, pushes it down, the whole bed sheet goes down. And it was my realisation that we're all connected. My kids, my family, my Ironman buddies, my Surf Lifesaving friends, the broader people, that all of us that connect with each other in different ways, we're all on that bed sheet together. If we're talking right now, we're on that bed sheet together. We're connected. We're interwoven. You know, you've had people on your podcast that are good friends of mine. You know, and we're interwoven. But I kind of realised that it's not about helping anybody else other than keeping moving up myself, whatever up may be.
It's like a rising tide lifts all ships, and if you
100%.
If you can bring everybody up with you.
And like when you're popping popcorn, you raise the temperature and you keep raising the temperature, one kernel is going to pop first. And why does he or she pop first? And then there's a 30-second delay before the second one pops, and then the next 15 seconds later, the third one, the fourth, and then eventually that whole pan of popcorn goes pop, 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 pop. And it's exactly the same with spiritual temperature or consciousness temperature or whatever you want to call it, or let's be a bit more holistic, or let's give a shit about each other. Whatever words you want to put to it is that somebody cares a little bit more, and then somebody next to them goes, oh, that feels more like me too. And then they care a little bit more. And then they care. It's almost like following each other around in a spiral as we get out of this place where we've been competitive. You know, we're really good people deep down, but we have our moments where we couldn't care less about anybody else. I'll care about my friends and my family, immediate family, and everyone inside my picket fence and my goals and my aims. But if you come across that fence and threaten it, then you're out, you know. And so it's a very normal stage that we go through. But really, if you cut down, you go, oh, wow, I couldn't care less about anybody else. And so you start caring a bit more, and that's the win on all levels thing. And actually, you spend less time trying to fix your own family and trying to change everybody around you. And you spend more time following your own intuition and exploring where it takes you, and having a conversation like we're having today and going, happy, love to. Because I want to talk more about truth and care and life, and might sound stupid, but it's actually what I want to talk about, you know. And it's so... someone goes, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And we're all Pied Pipers in our own way, but we need to, you know.
Well, something's going to resonate with someone.
Absolutely.
Along the way.
And I hear it all the time. I did a podcast with Howie, the Howie Games. And Mark Howard, and I did it 5 years ago, I reckon, 4.5 years ago. And I've run into every single week, every week of my life, someone will say to me, thank you for the podcast, changed my life. And all I did was told similar honest stories to what I've told today. It's like, oh, thank you. You know, and it's a really powerful medium because we're having real conversations that you can't have in other ways, and people will tune in when they're ready. And
I guess with you, when you had your, I don't know what you categorize it as, awakening or whatever you want to call it.
It's such a dicky word. It's probably the most
cliche, the word, isn't it?
It's ridiculous. It's probably the most appropriate word. But it's shift, turning point, wake up,
stage 2,
kick in the ass, you know. But it's an awakening because you literally kind of go, oh, you go,
Yeah.
oh my God. Oh, you see something more clearly. And it's like the helicopter just took off out of your backyard, and you saw everyone else's backyards and saw the fences are all the same. And when you go, it's just, you just kind of, life does it to you, eventually wakes you up and you go, I can see what you're saying.
So when you had this, because what interests me a lot with sports people or people who have had success is that retirement phase.
Yeah.
When you can no longer do it for whether physically, mentally, or just not keeping up anymore, or you just yourself decide, this is not for me anymore.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous period for a lot of people. You see it a lot in the football stars. They just spiral down out of control because they've lost their identity. They're no longer, especially, I relate, I watch a lot of leagues, so I know the guys, they're so well recognised in the streets and just in general. And that obviously, again, like you said, that brings a lot of ego to the fore.
Yeah.
They no longer are recognised. They just, it's almost like within 2 or 3 years, they become just an everyday member of society.
You're a no one.
A no one. In their eyes, a no one.
Yeah.
Do you feel like because you had your second stage of your awakening while you were still in a peak position, that enabled you and set you up better for retirement?
Totally.
Because you would have probably lost the plot a little bit, maybe.
Among other people, Keith Maitland, I owe a lot to for telling me the truth on a day when I didn't really want to hear it.
Yeah.
And what he got blazing back at him, even though I didn't say it, was, "You're dead, mate." Like all the power that I'd learned how to control situations with, I was like glaring at him in that moment when he was saying, "No, mate, if you don't make a shift, So him speaking the truth to me in that moment was a really powerful thing and a really helpful thing. So I think there's no doubt that happened at the right time for me and woke me up. And I think you kind of, I know for myself, there's that whole bell curve thing that, you go on an upward bell curve. And when you're at the top of that curve, you should start creating the next thing you do. Don't create it on the drop off, because it takes a while to create, to learn, to know and understand and create the next curve coming up. So picturing it like a hump, the next hump's further along the timeline. And if you've got to start the upward hump when you're at the top, not when you start dropping. Learning, being humble, passing on, starting at the bottom, being on the bottom of the pecking order again. And
which people are afraid of.
We're absolutely afraid of, because I want to ride this out. I'm actually somebody up here, and and it's all an illusion anyway. It's all a big trap, and it's just it's a giant trap. But I often explain to it like that awakening I had was, I'd been climbing this ladder for a long time, and in climbing the ladder, this is the way I symbolise it, is that, and it's how it feels, I can picture the picture inside of myself, is that I was climbing the ladder and the ladder went up through the clouds. And I was on the way and I was strong and I was climbing the ladder and I was the Iron Man. I was going to win everything. That's my ladder, I'm going to win everything. I'll be indestructible. I'll break all the records and then no one will ever question me again, So I'm climbing the ladder and I'm on my way up there and I have this little awakening. And when my awakening was when my head came through the clouds. So I did enough work to get my head through the clouds. And when my head came through the clouds, I literally had this, like I got to the top, and it was like the symbolism was, as I got to the top of the clouds, I saw that the ladder didn't go any further than that. And then I looked across the top of the clouds in the peacefulness of the blue sky above it. And there was this other ladder over there that just kept going. And it was the humble everyday person ladder. It was like the give a shit about people ladder. It was the follow your own intuition and be true to yourself ladder, And I'm like, what's that? And there's all these normal people climbing much higher. And I'm like, I'm on the wrong ladder, And that's the way I relate to it. And I literally, what's funny is I started climbing back down, because the only way is to get down, deconstruct who you think you are, traverse across the paddock a little bit and climb the next ladder. And and that's a journey in itself and a humbling good one. But as I was climbing down, all my mates, as I'm climbing down, are behind me on the ladder, following me up, and they're going, what did you see? What did you see? And I'm like, guys, we're on the wrong ladder. And of course, they go, no, so go down. They go, no, we're going to go up, because you got to see it for yourself. You got to get up there for yourself and realize it's the wrong ladder. Otherwise, why would you listen to anybody else? And that's what you got to do. So I'm busily climbing over them, trying to get back down and then traverse back over. And then I'm at the bottom of the ladder, and now I'm an idiot, and I'm slow learner, and I'm learning how to care for people and actually listen to people, and I became a counsellor and a facilitator and all this sort of stuff, and I'm getting it wrong, and my ego is getting involved, and everyone's saying, no, Trevor, you're not actually caring for it. I'm back at the beginning again. And funnily enough, there was I was trying to reconstruct the ego over in a different area, which is another story for another time. But ultimately, it all comes down to going, just drop all the bullshit and be available, be here for people. And, I'm still on the journey to do that. But it's, I don't know, care about people, be present. They'll change when they want to change, and be available, I suppose.
How did you combat because you have to be super competitive. You have to be.
Yeah.
I know like with sports people, they like, for example, Richie McCaw, you might know him, the All Black.
Totally.
He does like adventure racing, things like that. He does those big long distance. So he's obviously a super competitive guy.
Yeah.
And
so that was Guy Andrews too.
Exactly.
Won
he's
the big titles and went into adventure racing and everything else. And I was diverted off into this other path, like my mates weren't.
Yeah.
Just because of the people I was reading and the people I came across, and it was probably in me to do that journey a bit earlier than everybody else. But it's the same stuff that's in all my buddies, but a lot of them stayed in competition and everything else, and I was really meant to live the life I'm living. So
no competition. You just lost that. We didn't lose that fire, but because that fire, where does that fire go? Like, you just can't. If you're fiercely competitive, the next week you can't just stop and go.
What's fueling the fire? So the fire is the competition, but what's fueling it is the desire to be free. I wanted to win, because when I won, I felt free. I felt like I was flying. So I wanted to fly and be free. So what happened was it just changed to work I was doing on myself. I just wanted to fly and be free. I wanted to help more people and connect more and learn more, and I had this strange feeling of all this baggage inside of me, and how do I get rid of that? And so it just, that energy, the intent behind it just shifted to something else. So I still wanted to excel and be good at something, but I always wanted to be good at actually getting out of my own bullshit,
Okay.
Which, it's just a funny thing, because then you've got other things to confront along the way. But I actually I retired in 98, and I said, I'm done with chasing a gold medal. I'd rather help other people chase their gold medal now. Yeah. And that was really true to me at the time. And then 2001, I came back and won an Australian championship without any training or anything else. And I literally decided to race because the guy in my surf club said, why don't you race just to inspire the young kids in the tent and everything? And I'll do one race. And I end up winning this race. And it was like this crazy experience of racing from not needing to win. Yeah. Just like, wow, there was no need to win. It was really, a guy went past me, and I was like, he looks like he's going to win, but I just saw in my mind before that I was going to win this. So I wonder how that's going to work out. And then the wave doubled up, and I caught up and went up next to him. It was Nathan Smith, and it's, he's an amazing young man. And he'd already claimed it, and I came up next to him and beat him up the beach, and he was faster than me, but probably kind of did his number when he claimed it, and probably learnt from it, Yeah. But it was just a last little moment for me, and I was like, wow, this happened without even trying, without even wanting.
Second to last, wasn't it?
Yeah. So then I raced with TJ in the Australian Board Rescue, and when he started racing, he was 20 years old. It's only 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I was like 47 years of age and raced in the Board Rescue, and we got through each round. Just in fourth place, which only fourth qualify out of 8 get through the next round, because they've all got their own cans, so you can't put up a whole bunch of people. And we scraped through fourth in the quarterfinal, and then we won the semi-final and literally had this amazing hug on the line. Everyone went, "Oh my God, Trevor and TJ in the Board Rescue final, never been done before." And I was just kind of standing there thinking, "Oh wow, I'm living the dream," with tears streaming down my face in the water's edge, just like, wow, I'm racing with my son. And I was an ass when he was born. When he was born, that was when I was going through breakup, and that was when I wasn't proud. His eyes looked back at me, and I wasn't proud of the man that I was then. I'd lost my way in a lot of ways, and that was when I went through that whole change. And sort of 93 to 95, it all happened. And his big brown eyes, and I decided I was going to become the man I wanted to be the dad I needed to be for him.
Yep.
And for Christelle as well, but this young son, it was just something about the father-son thing. It was like, whoa. And literally here I am 20 years later, and he says, "Dad, let's race the Board Rescue," and I'm with him, and my only goal...
So it's his idea, was it?
It's his idea.
Yeah, cool.
My only goal was to pick him up as fast as I possibly could.
Yeah.
And which was my goal 20 years ago, to be the dad, the father I could, to hold him, to help him in the world, and gigantic bookend, a 20-year-long bookend of where I'd travelled in my life. And I'd been overseas for a few weeks with the rest of the family, and I come back and I trained for 8 weeks for it.
Yep.
And I was getting smashed by the girls in the club in the river when I paddled the first paddle in 8 weeks.
That's humbling, isn't it?
Yeah. I did Pete Evans' paleo way.
Yep.
And I'd lost 8 kilos in 8 weeks, and literally raced lighter, leaner. My only goal was to pick him up as fast as I could. I'm crying, just thinking, oh my God, I'm living the dream with my son. And then TJ, all of a sudden I see his feet standing in front of me, and I look up and he's got tears as well, and he's all welled up, and he says, I agree, Dad. And I'm like, with what? And he's like, we're living the dream. You know, he's reading my mind, which he's always done.
Yeah.
We had this giant hug, and I said, you know how we won that semi-final? It actually doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean we're going to win this. Doesn't mean we're going to lose. It doesn't mean actually anything. And he goes, yeah, I get that. It actually is not like, yeah, we're a chance.
Yeah.
Oh, now let's do that again. It's like, it's got nothing to do with it. It's like, we're together in this race. And he was like, I agree. And we just like, we're father and son in love with each other, standing on the line. Had nothing to do with perfection and everything to do with connection, you know. And he got out 8th out of 8. I caught up a bit, didn't even know because I was only looking at him, didn't care about anybody else. I caught up to about 4th apparently, but I went over, my fin hit the actual the string. Yeah. I got dragged backwards. He went to go under the board, smacked him in the head, came up under the board, got past.
So it was less than ideal.
He got on and we're 8th again, you know, and he said, Dad, well, that was the worst change in the history of the world. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, don't worry about it, let's go. And I was, yep. And the words formed in my mouth as the tail of the board came up.
Is this in the semi? Is this in the
final?
Oh, this is the final, yep.
Tail of the board came up. We're in 8th spot. Nose went down. And it's right when you need to turn the board and follow the way the run's going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Trev, the master, raced for years. The words formed in my mouth to say, go right, Teach.
Yeah.
And before I could say anything, he tilted his chest because he's on the front of the board and took us right. And I had this moment. It was like a freedom when I was like, oh, I've done my job.
Yeah.
Like I just had to sort myself out for 20 years. I didn't have to. He knows everything he needs to know, and he's learned some of it from me and some of it from others. But this 20 years was me getting my crap together to be the man I needed to be, not just for him, but he woke me up to be the person I needed to be for myself and for everybody else. And you know, it was literally like he kind of gave all that to me, you know, and along with the rest of the family, obviously. But he turned the board right, and we followed this one tiny little run, which you don't do 2 big men on a board rescue board. We followed the whole run, and every time he put his arms out like an albatross, I'd copy him. Every time he stuck his chin down on the board, I'd stick my chin on his ass as hard as I could, you know. Every time he paddled fast, I'd paddle fast. Every time he paddled slow.
So you just shut up and followed him?
I just shut up and let him lead. It was like the handing over, and he followed us all. He took us all the way through. And you'll love to hear this because he got off and he said, I won that for us. And, you know, and he did. He took us all the way through, you know, and then we went all the way through 3rd, 2nd, 1st. We were equal first with 2 others. We stood up and then just beat one other crew by 20 centimetres across the line to win this ridiculous thing. And there's people crying in the crowd and everything. And I crossed the line right in front of Grant Kenny, Mark Bennett's, Dwayne Tyers. They were my 3 idols. And they were all sitting right near each other, and they all jumped on like a stacks on, and I just had this beautiful moment. Like that completed the journey of being the man I wanted to be, but it completed the journey back to being the athlete I wanted to be, because from when I wanted to win to when I won this with my son, that whole journey was about learning what winning really is. Yeah. And 2 hours later, we walked across the road, and TJ turned to me and he said, so Dad, that's what winning feels like. And I went, well, what do you mean, mate? And he goes, well, true winning doesn't feel like you've beaten anybody else. It feels like you've won on behalf of everybody else. Yeah, it's cool. And I went, wow, like goosebumpy moment, pretending that I already knew that. But and I kind of knew it, but not at the level that he got it. Yeah. And I went, that's right, mate. And he was like so proud, and he turned around and he goes, that's why I haven't won yet, because I needed to know that first. And he hadn't won an Australian title, you know, and so he won. That was the first gold medal. So probably his first, my last. Yeah. And it came out of this love, you know, win on all levels kind of thing.
Probably your most special, I would have thought too.
Oh, by far, by 10 times. Yeah, yeah. You know, second is like Taplin relays and board relays with my buddies that we just defied odds and did crazy things. And funnily in that, you know, the other guys that I've worked with, watching Ali Day win recently, the world title last year, and watching Max win, and all the boys that have won, Phil Clayton, Shannon Eckstein, Nathan Meyer, watch them win after me. They probably mean more to me than mine, to be honest. And those other ones are like awesome and amazing and part of something that I did at some point in time, but they just don't, it's like they don't even fit. I just love seeing people win. It's like who I really am, I think.
I think I know a little while ago. I'm not sure if it's openly spoken about, but how you helped Shannon Eckstein with a bit of an approach. I remember reading an article about it. I forget where, about how you he was finding a way to lose. Each time,
yes.
I don't know if that's the right terminology of what was happening, but he was losing the really small by small margins all the time.
Yeah,
like he's like a
people are always coming paid win.
Yeah,
he'd be leading
because he's obviously he's the if you're the best of all time, he's probably second.
Well, but the other way around, I'd say. You're
flattering yourself. But.
Well, I think he certainly won way more than I did. Like he broke all those records and everything else, and I think we probably had a similar pace. Probably himself, myself, Kai Hurst and Grant Kenny had a similar pace at which we won. Yeah. But Kai, Grant, myself switched to other sports, and Shan kept going. And those four people, when I looked at someone explained that to me one stage, went, "Oh, you guys are all winning at the same pace. Like you're all, 8 years in, it all won this many sort of thing. So Grant obviously quicker because he won 4 in a row straight up and then switched to kayaking. So but
so
it's
you helped him. Did he sort of come to you and say?
Shan, he was at a life stage, where I was his big brother anyway. I was always looking out for him, similar to Carla Gilbert and Phil Clayton and a lot of others, and Nath Meyer and a bunch of different people. Is that you try and hand on what you're learning as best you know. And I'd just gone through that stage of winning on all levels, and I started to have that awakening, and I realised, he had a little program. He was getting more energy out of. The story was building about how he was always leading. He was getting like a bit of something out of the story that they'd always go past him. It was getting momentum.
It was expected? Yeah. So when it happened, it was like, it's just happened again.
Yeah, and it's easier to do that than to actually just let that go and go. It's easy just to have that happen over and over again. So it sounds so strange, but it's like you're programming your own experience. No, you're not. The waves are coming through and it's happening. No. You're visualizing it even if you're unconsciously doing it because you just keep seeing it. And so the more you hate it, this saying went to come up earlier and I was like, I meant to say this saying, but what you resist persists. Yeah. What you focus on grows and what you judge, you become. Yeah. They're 3 very powerful sayings around the law of attraction. So if you go, and there's an internal thing, that thing is bound to repeat itself. Until you can learn how it happened, let it go and be okay with it happening or not happening, then you can move on and have a new experience. But it just keeps coming back. So we did some work around it. I can't even remember. That's the mark of a good session is you can't remember how it happened. You have a conversation, and I know Shan got some help with some other stuff, and he's just an amazing... all of us brought something different to the sport. Shannon brought the longevity, and he brought the idea that we all switched out trying to go bigger and go to Olympics, and he went, no, I'm going to stay here and be here for the kids. Yeah, probably at a time that it needed it most, because we lost a lot of sponsors and a lot of ratings, and there was Uncle Toby's versus Kellogg's, and then it just went to Kellogg's, and then we were just losing that coverage sort of thing, and Kellogg's have done a wonderful job of keeping the whole thing going, but the amount of people watching it just diminished. Because
it used to be the sport to watch, didn't it, on TV?
It was huge. It was one of it became, instead of the 3 biggest summer sports of cricket, tennis and golf, we had a decision. We decided as a group to become one of the 4 big summer sports. It's going to be referred to from now on as the 4 big summer sports. And we end up outrating them all at some stages, The tennis got us when John McEnroe made the semi-final of the Australian Open in a comeback, Everyone tuned in, and as soon as they actually finished watching that match, they all came over and we had record numbers, But we were getting 2 million people watching at a time back when it wasn't split over all the internet and all the pay TV and everything else. So it was a different era. But Shannon stayed through that period, Shannon Eckstein. And one of the great things, it's like, it's a sadness in me, is that he's probably one of the greatest Australian athletes ever produced. Like, I'll go out there and say he is unbelievable. He could have raced kayaking at the Olympic Games.
I was just about to say that.
He could have raced swimming at the Olympics if he really wanted to push.
I said, you're looking at a guy who, wasn't he, I think he was secondary school cross country
Australian champion.
I was like, you're looking at a guy who, I said, he would be representative in every single sport. If you, like,
there's 4 of them: board, swim, ski, run. And swim, ski, run, he could have represented our country in anything. Yeah. And board has no equivalent, and he was the best in the world.
He probably went on the Molokai.
Yeah,
if he wanted to, if he decided.
Absolutely. Without you know, so I just have nothing for admiration for the athlete.
I feel like Zane Holmes is a little bit like that too.
Yeah, Zane was incredible. Zane struggled with a sore back and a bad back, and he needed to go see my guys earlier.
Yeah.
That would have fixed him up, because I'll talk about Zane in a moment. But Shannon, the other thing with Shannon was he stayed for the sport.
Yeah.
You know, and he stayed for younger people, and he was super, super fair. And there was a moment in the sport where him and Matt Poole had a clash, and Pooley, you know, pushed him in front, and Shannon fell over. You know, and Pooley wasn't disqualified and got the win. And basically, I sat on the judiciary that day about how it would be, you know, and we didn't have the actual to the letter law to cover that particular thing. We're like, to the letter, we can't actually. There should be a new law to say Pooley should probably drop back a spot because inhibit, you know, And he wasn't trying, I don't think, to go get out of my way, but he was trying to hold his line. He was competitive, and he caused Shannon to fall over. So. Two amazing, you know, athletes for our sport, and two different personalities. A bit more like myself and Leachy or something like that. You know, Pooley more fiery and really cool. But I think that really broke Shannon's heart for a moment, because he was like, I've tried to be so fair this whole time and race in a way that's fair, and it was like, mate, I'm so sorry, but we couldn't do anything other than uphold that thing. If we could have done the other way, but we would have opened ourselves up, you know, opened the whole sport up. Yeah. But that really showed me who he was. He was fair. He's so fair, you know, and he's got two amazing children, a beautiful wife, Belle, and so I'm really proud of the person he is, that I'm connected to him, and that what he did, you know. And he went to Northcliffe, and he helped Northcliffe become the strongest club ever in their competitive ranks and everything else, and you know, build a whole club around what he was doing and the people around him and everything else. And that's a really cool, amazing achievement in his own right. Yeah, you know, so. And on Ironman, Zane Holmes is still the only one of us to have won the 4 majors. Yeah. So for us, our 4 majors, or our 4 Grand Slams, are the Australian Ironman, which is a bit like the Wimbledon.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
It's, you know, the World Ironman's probably like a PGA. So now I've crossed over to golf. Yeah. You know, the Coolangatta Gold is like a Masters. Yep. You know. Yep. And probably a series wins like a US Open or something like that. Yeah. They've all got their different flavours to them. Well, Zane Holmes is the only male to win all 4. Yeah. You know, so he didn't win a big smattering of all 4 of them. He's the only one to win all 4, because the Australian world title's 12 minutes. Yeah. Coolangatta Gold's 4 plus hours. Yeah. You know, so and the name other sports where that happens very rarely. I think, did Zatopek win a marathon and maybe a 5K or something like that?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't know.
Something like that, maybe Emil Zatopek. But it's just so ridiculous, you know. And the series is the multiple of all those things put together. So Zane, you could easily claim he's, you know, the greatest as well. He's the only one. Ali Day's probably close, because he's now got his Cooley Gold, his 2 series titles, 6 Coolangatta Golds, 2 series titles, and he's a world champion. And he's led the Australian title a couple of times.
Even Kane.
Yeah, Kane only needs to win Kane's got to win the world and Australian title. Yeah. So Shannon needed to win the Coolangatta Gold.
He's got a funny approach to everything, Kane. When he was in here, it's just he just seems to go, oh yeah, I might do that, and there's just no
he's very
like you can tell he's super competitive, and he's got that fire in him, but he's just, oh no, I'm going to try this now. It almost feels like he's like a magpie on the shiniest thing he's got to go for. He's like, I want to try that race next, and that race next. And
he's not that connected to it.
Yeah, he was so nonchalant about it. He's just like, I just don't really care. Like, I'll do it if I want to.
Broke the world chin-up record.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't a crack at that. Yeah. You're like, who does that?
Tore his bicep over the bone for 3 or 4 weeks before the Coolangatta Gold. And
he speaks like he's just, I'll do that. Oh, no, he doesn't like watch. No, I just like one watch. I just like to know how long I'm taking. I'd like to do it all by feel. Yeah, and that's what I was going to speak to you before about as well. With that whole surf sports thing, do you think people neglect how much a more holistic approach would help when it comes to, because it's in like surf, it's an ocean, it's such an energy. Yeah. And sure, like you want to be the fastest person at board, fastest person at ski, fastest person at everything, and just basically like a battering ram through the surf. But if you sort of embrace the whole more holistic side of it, I mean, I don't. It might be a bit superstitious, or it might be a bit.
No. That's exactly what I've tried to teach the whole time. So force versus flow.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can be the fastest board paddler, swimmer, ski paddler, runner, everything sitting there, super psyched, ready to go. Get one wave, get your timing out, be out of flow, get one wave on the lap at the wrong time, lose your ski back to the beach, and you're last. Race over. So there's this, and I think it relates to life. I think the sport of Ironman racing and Ironwomen racing teaches us some of those elements of life, and it is force versus flow. You can be all prepared, but what about the flow?
Yeah.
Now, I could actually swim all year, really, really work hard, maybe drop my 400 meter time by 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah.
4 or 5 seconds. Or I could swim out in the rip, back in exactly the right time and come in 40 seconds in front of that other person.
Yeah.
So which is the highest priority to learn?
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to build the foundation and the base of swimming training, board paddling, ski paddling, running, wading, skills, fitness, being able to back up. That's all the foundation of the pyramid. But ultimately, when all that's in place, so I worked out early that 90%, it's 90% fitness when you first start.
Yep.
Fitness and skills, preparation. Then I went, oh my goodness, we're all at the same level.
Yeah.
So it was 90% fitness, 10% mental. And then I realized we're all at the same level. And then I went, oh my God, at this level, it's now 90% mental, 10% to do with the fitness because you've already got it.
So there,
And then what I later learned was, oh my goodness, it's 90% flow at this level and 10% mental. So you've got to bring yourself prepared, ready to go, but then you've got to let go.
Yeah.
And you've got to have the fitness base and everything else. And you've got to, it's probably 80-10-10. You know, literally 80% about flow and being in the moment, being in love with life, being connected, not thinking this race is going to complete you or heal you or make you the one.
Yeah.
You know, at the level that I'm talking about. You can win races, you can win anything at any different level, but the level that I'm talking about, it opens up to you when you go, oh, the ocean is my friend. Call it superstitious. Well, I just know that it works. You know, I've swam on the backs of dolphins and whales and everything else, and they've turned up, they rode waves with them this morning, you know, like... You go, the world is a friendly world, and it is very spiritually based when you get out of your head and out of your mind, you know, out of your mind and your body mentality. It's like the ocean actually comes to you. And I love...
And people categorise it as luck.
Oh, they categorise it as luck. I love it. And you know, I idolised Greg Norman, and he came in and he did this 20-foot, he was going into the last day of a major or something like that, and he said, they said to him something like, you know, you made, you know, 8 20-foot putts today. You know, do you think your luck's going to stick tomorrow? And he said, oh, it's funny you should say that, but I find the harder I practice, the luckier I get. Yeah. You know, and that got me because that was the practice part, right? Yeah. And then years later, and I got all this flow, and I couldn't really talk to many people about it, but I went through the awakening and everything else, and I think it was about 1996 that I connected with Kelly Slater. And Cal and I had this strange connection. We kept missing each other all around the place, and people were trying to connect us. And we went and played golf together. You know, I rang him and I said, hey, Cal, it's Trev. So-and-so's just given me your number to catch up, you know. And he's like, do you play golf? I'm like, yep. Right, got a spot for you. Went and played golf. We sat in that golf cart. It was Oki was there as well, and John Shamuka. And we sat in that golf cart and we're just like, blah, 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 to each other, just talking. I think 3 o'clock the next morning, sitting in my lounge room, like laying there, falling asleep, talking to each other, we were still talking. I think we went fishing the next day, talked the whole way. And it was all these things, you know, that I would be swimming in, and I could feel the wave coming. I knew I would be connecting to the wave, and I just knew. I didn't even look back for it. I just go, here it comes, and it would pick me up, and I'd be exactly the right spot, and I knew the wave was coming. It's a strange thing that you get to. Shannon got to it. Ali Day's got to it. All these guys have got to it. Kane's got to it, and he'd say the same thing. He'd go, I'd sitting there, and I know I need a 9, and I'd be sitting there, and I'd go, I can feel it coming, and then I'd go, no, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. And it's counting down. It's like a minute to go, 45 seconds to go. That's not it. And then he'd go, it's coming, you know.
Not stressing.
And then he'd come over and he'd see this wave and he'd go, there it is.
Yeah.
Now he's already confronted the loss of the heat.
Yeah.
He's already he's already allowed himself to lose the heat by letting it go that long. So when he stands up, he's already ridden the wave. So he could ride the wave with no fear of falling off because he'd already... If that makes sense.
It sounds like he's seen a similar trajectory to you.
Totally. We had a crazy trajectory onwards after that and spent years working together.
Because you can tell like he would have definitely been involved in the ego.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I mean, geez, they were even bigger. Surfers were even bigger. Well, probably similar in Australia, but then surfing's gone, you know. Surf Ironman's probably plateaued off and surfing's continued on.
Surfing just gone worlds. And since that period, the WSL came in and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And I love Eckhart Tolle. He says, ego equals, with the equal sign, ego equals unconscious.
Yeah.
So if we're unconscious to anything, then it's ego, it's persona. It's like we think ego is arrogance.
Yeah.
And Shirley Strawn, who was out with me the night that I met my wife, You know, he used to sing in Skyhooks. He used to sing, ego is not a dirty word, you know.
Yeah.
And it's always stuck in my head. It's like, ego is not arrogance. Arrogance is a form of ego. If we don't think we can do something, if we think we're great, if we think we're depressed, that's all form of ego. It's the unconsciousness, the construct that we're sitting inside. We don't realise that we're capable of anything. When we become more conscious, we go, oh, we can achieve anything, you know.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we're going to, but we can.
Yeah.
And then if you want to, you go towards it, and more often than not, it works itself out.
Yeah. That's funny that your life you lead, when you open yourself up to those things, the people bring themselves in. Like Kelly Slate, you know, he was obviously on a similar journey, so it was just it
it's
just
the
happened.
bed sheet.
Yeah,
you know, you lift
exactly.
up the bed sheet, and everyone connected to you, whether you know them or not, they turn up in your space.
Yeah.
And it's like you with your podcast. People will turn up to you and you know that you want to chat with, and now you've connected with me, and I'll say, oh, talk to this person. You know, it's like different. We're all connected, and there's probably a great lie and a great truth without making it literal. The great lie is we're all separate.
Yep.
The great lie is I can see you sitting over there body-wise, we're all separate. We've got different colour skin or heritage or size or, you know, gender or sexuality or religion. We're separate. These things tell us we're separate. The great truth at the other end is we're all one.
Yeah.
You know, so when you get beyond the third and fourth dimension of body, mind, etc., you start to go, oh, we share the same life force and the same spirit. Beyond what religion's telling us about different religions. No, they're all pointing to the same thing. Get beyond all this garbage and go, we're all one. You know, so it's kind of crazy that at that end you realise, well, it's all about connection and collaboration, because after all, we're all one. We're reconnecting. Down this end, it's all about comparison and competition. They're all the C's. Comparison, competition versus connection and collaboration. And one's the great lie and one's the great truth. The great lie, however, the great distortion, is really powerful. We've all lived in it. It teaches you. We're there to die in it, live in it, die in it, live in it. And I wrote a program a few years back called The Boot Camp for the Soul, because I realised on all this stuff that I've done is life is one big boot camp for our soul. And that ultimately that's what we're learning. You're learning about who you are. And Eckhart Tolle says that your primary purpose is to know yourself as source. Like not tomato sauce, like what's that? And it's basically to know yourself, that we all share the same energy. And a really meditational moment, or people talking about, you know, doing hallucinogenics or whatever. People go over do a hallucination and they go, oh, I'm with the trees and everything else. It's like, that's actually our base level reality. And that's what religion's trying to say as well, when it's done right, without all the other stuff. And so it's all there. It's who we really are. Primary purpose is to know ourselves as sources connected to each other, and to learn that. Our secondary purpose is, once you know that, do something with it. You know, maybe help someone else.
Well, that's the biggest thing. It's all well and good knowing it, but like you were saying before, are you ready to put it into practice?
Yeah. Are you actually living it? Because it's all garbage. If you're kicking one dog, or if you're holding on to one grudge, or if you're controlling someone else through anger, your kids, your family, you're yelling, you know, then that's okay, except that's where you're stuck. Yeah. That's the point. That's your measure. So whatever's going on there, sort that out. It might actually be anger with something else that we're playing out. So go over and sort that out with our dad or our mum or our brother or ex-business partner or ex-wife or husband or whatever that we haven't resolved. Go resolve that, and don't resolve it with them. Resolve it in yourself. Yeah. You know, it'll be resolved in them when you resolve it in yourself, because there's nothing really outside.
I don't think
yourself.
people give enough credit to the weight off your shoulders dealing with an issue takes you. And you don't
problem
feel
shared is a problem halved.
Well, it's like putting on weight. You know, when you put on weight, probably you don't. I do.
Yeah, no, I've done it. Yep.
You put on weight, and it's a slow burn.
Yep.
Like you slowly put it on to the point where you're like, holy shit, I've put up with that. And you see people that are obesely overweight.
Yep.
And like my wife said that, I don't know how they live like that. I'm like, because it didn't just happen.
No, that's right.
That was a progressive thing.
That's
and
right.
you progressive put more and more weight, and
their body shape changed and adapted, and their legs got stronger to carry it.
Exactly. That's why you see people that lose a lot of weight have really strong legs, because they've had to basically doing weights the whole time. But it's like it's like a dark cloud that just drops on your shoulders, and like your emotion or things you hold on to can be the exact same way. So people can be walking around overweight with baggage, and it's just, but they're used to it. They're like, this is just the life I live, and it's not till you lose that. Not till you lose that, like you lose 20 kilo and you feel, wow, I feel like I jump around. Not till you lose that weight that you go, well, geez, I was living with that, and now I feel like it's gone.
I feel free.
I feel free. And if more people lost that little bit of baggage, that would encourage them to keep going. Because you see people, obviously overweight, it's the best way I can describe it. Overweight, they lose 10 kilo and think, that's great, I'll lose 10 more. I'll lose 10 more. So if you deal with some of your baggage, lose that, I'm going to go to the next one, going to the next stage.
And I think that's the thing, the chicken or the egg. It's if you deal with the baggage first, the weight will come off.
Yeah.
You know, if you want it to, it comes off much easier. If you just go into, that's where diets happen. We don't deal with the baggage. We just go, we oscillate between depressed and angry. Yeah. You know, so I'm going you know, given up and what's the word? Motivated.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Versus I can't do it. So it's just this duality thing. But if we actually, you know, of all the people that I've worked with, I've noticed, and even in myself in particular moments, is that a lot of the people who are carrying weight there's a direct correlation between weight and sensitivity. So someone who's actually a really beautiful, heartfelt, deeper, caring person will often carry more weight. So
the jolly fat person, you mean?
Yeah, well, no, it's not even the jolly fat. It's a protective, it's like a what's the layer I'm thinking about? It's when you're getting psychically attacked. So it's like a psychic layer. So the weight we put on psychically protects us from the world that we think is harsh and hard and everything else. Yeah. So it kind of puts us in a mode over here, and we're protected from it via the weight. I'm just sharing from experiences of people I've helped.
Yep.
I lost 8 kilos in 8 weeks when I did the paleo way with TJ because I had a goal.
Yeah.
So I had a shift in what I wanted to do. Most of that I put back on at some stage, and more recently I lost 8 kilos in 8 weeks again, not trying, intermittent fasting, doing 16 hours, you know, from dinner to when I ate again. And I did a little keto reboot and then did this fast. Couldn't believe the energy I got, right? Yeah. But I lost about 4 kilos of it pretty quickly and then got stuck. And just for a week or so, and then I went, I can feel, I went through a little psychological, spiritual, emotional clean out. I got stuck on a spot. And then I was like, got angry and got frustrated, went into this hole. Yeah. And I went, something's switching on here. Just keep going. Yeah. And I kept fasting and I kept going and I kept clearing and I kept talking to my wife, going, I'm carrying this and everything else. And all of a sudden I went, oh, wow, I've been carrying some like almost psychic protection. So when it was 92 kilos, right? And that was the weight that I raced at.
Yep.
So when I raced at 92, I was the Ironman with all the muscles and all the trophies. So that psychically protected me.
Yep.
When I retired, I progressively put on weight up to around 96. And that was the weight, because the more I lost the muscle and the ego, so to speak, still got one. I'm still trying to deal with it. But anyone who claims they don't have one's probably got one. But, you know, breaking it down and everything else, all of a sudden I realized that, oh my God, I put on that weight to protect me.
Yeah.
So when I got back to 92, I got stuck because I've never been beyond this point without muscle.
That's subconscious.
It was like this weird subconscious thing. And I woke up in the middle of the night and realized it. And I went, as soon as I realized it, the next day I went, well, boom, 91, like that. Just stripped it. I went, wow. And I went down to 88. And I'm really comfortable now at 88 without all the muscle. If I put the muscle on, it'd probably be 92.
Yeah.
But I'm really comfortable at 88. And I was 96. So it was like 4 kilos either side of this race weight.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like 4 kilos heavier. And I tell you what, I've lost that weight and I'm so much more energy and everything else. But don't lose the weight first. Start going. Just know that it's connected to being the person that you really want to be deep down, who you really are. And it seems to be a lot of cases tied to sensitivity.
I also look at motivation as a loaded word too when it comes to people like that. Like they might hop on the social media and look at a post and be like, oh, motivated.
How long
it
does
lasts not very long at all.
It's like a coffee.
Yeah.
Coffees are very motivating, right?
Yeah. So you want your, on one side, you probably want your discipline.
Yep.
Because that's going to help someone who's dealt with their baggage or dealing with it. If you're disciplined, then the motivation will help. But also, if you're dealing with things like you're saying, your baggage on that side, then the motivation is going to help that too. Because motivation is only good, but like you said, if you're not dealing with what is causing you to be like that, then the motivation is bullshit. It's not even worth the salt. It's just a pick me up. Yeah, like you said, it's like a coffee. It's just
like a coffee. It just lifts you up, and it's all good. They're good things, and they're very helpful in certain stages. They're great for getting away.
I mean, just want to go for a run, you quickly watch a motivational video, and that'll encourage you to get out the door and go. But
it's like adrenaline, right? Adrenaline hooks into fight or flight and the amygdala in the brain, and then so that was there to get away from the saber-toothed tiger. So it kept you alive. But at all the subtle stress we've got now with finances and money and social and all the things that are going on, we are in fight or flight most of Western civilization most of the time. So we're not in it with a full burst of adrenaline. We're just like drip feeding adrenaline and dopamine and everything's just going through there this whole time, and then cortisol, which is the negative. So we're in this amazing chemist is actually like we've opened the counter up and we're just pouring whatever's pouring into us the whole time based on our psychological state or our emotional or spiritual state or our consciousness. So it's quite crazy. Adrenaline, fight or flight, the sympathetic nervous system is a very powerful thing, but it's meant to save our lives, not actually live in it. You know, so how do we switch it off and how do we get out of that? And motivation is a similar thing. I've had enough of this. We hit rock bottom. I'm going to change. And it only lasts for so long. So I often say is that what's the deeper why? What's the thing that actually you're not going to stop? You know, your deeper why. And for me, it was my kids. It was the realization that if I don't get out from under this rock, my kids will all be under the same rock. Now, I can't scientifically prove that was going to happen, but my deeper consciousness, I went, oh my God, I could feel if I don't get out from under this rock, my kids they'll get out from under the rock in their own time, but they'll have to go through all my stuff as well to get through it.
And that's unfair.
It's unfair. And so it's like I even went through, breakup with Joe as well, went to try and work out who I was and everything else. And after 3 years, we came back together and it was like I'd resolved all this stuff. I don't recommend you'd have to do all these sort of things, but I did that because I wanted to actually be true. I wanted to find a true path, and I didn't want the people that were connected to me responsible to be just stuck somewhere. I think I still find moments where I'm like, do I need to keep moving? Am I sticking people by not moving on? All this sort of stuff. But when it comes to changing weight or, that financial goal, it all relates to the same thing. Why? What's your deeper why? I want to get rid of this feeling. No. What's the deeper why? What's the thing that's going to sustain you for longer? And ultimately for me, it came down to me being free and my kids and family and people connected to me being free. And that's all I do while I'm sitting here right now is because I care about freedom. I'm still learning about it, but I care about it.
You can tell it's your kids too, because when you speak about them, you light up.
Yeah.
You like it's just, you can tell it's you like your...
Oh, it's like they're extensions of yourself. I sometimes think, it's hard to know... to learn about the other layers of freedom when you don't have children or people that are connected to you. I know people that are going for freedom, but they don't necessarily have kids that they're like, oh my goodness, those kids are connected to me. So it's a strange thing. It's like they're extension of yourself. They're not really. They're free in their own right and they can do whatever they want. But there's a strange thing about you've got to walk the walk, otherwise they won't.
You noticed that too. You probably did. Having 4, you definitely did. Where there's something you'll say or an action you'll do, and you see them repeat that action or repeat that, and you think, holy shit, they're watching me the whole time. I remember the first time I sort of caught onto that, I panicked. I thought, God, what else have they? I've got 2 daughters. What else have they absorbed?
Yes, yeah.
What have I said that's just?
What's happened?
And they just because the way they just spoke, and I said, oh my God, that's how I speak, or they're doing that because that's what I do. And then that gave me that made me a bit more conscious. I'm still pretty free and easy around them. Like we've got a good relationship. Good. Like I don't temper who I am. I'm like, well, I'm who I am. I can't change that, and I don't want to be a different person around you because I think that breeds dishonesty, and it doesn't work.
That's the core. That's the base of it. I reckon. It's be honest the whole time.
It's hard. You can't be too honest. Sometimes.
Well, no, but you can be when you're ready. So there are even things that I would never tell. My parents or some friends or whatever, and I get to a certain stage where my kids are growing up and they go, oh, did you ever do that? And I go, yep. It's time to say, yep, because the truth sets you free and it sets them free too.
And as you grow older, you sort of realise, like your kids you're older to, probably realise, oh, my father's just a grown up child.
Oh, I'm a grown-up child, so that my father is, and
it's funny. I remember the realisation when I found that. You're like, oh, well, and they're just coping they're just coping, like you said. They're just a few laps further around than I am.
We don't know much more than anybody else. I'm 51, Jono. Just when I looked at 50-year-olds, I'd be like, they're so old. I feel so young, like I'm learning a new sport and everything else, and I'm just having this crazy time. I'm one of my buddies, Carl Muggeridge, he's just opened up the foil centre because he's getting the foil thing going. He's an ex-Supersport world champion superbike rider and ripper of a bloke, and I started foiling and got into it with him straight away, and we're just like kids frothing. Another young guy, Dan Raywood, he was on the Ironman circuit last year, and he's discovered this, and the three of us are just like, where are we going today? And now Pete's into it, and our nipper coach Damien Gulliver, who's an Australian sporting champion in Surf Lifesaving. We're all like kids falling off, frothing, so there's something about the spirit's never old, the mind can grow old, we'll think it's old, and what a load of shit, that's just the body. There's definitely, if you start seeing the right people and eat the right foods and put the right things in, the body doesn't get old anywhere near as quick as you think it should too. I'm still running around winning races and doing things, and I don't wake up with aches in the morning, and I'm 51.
And you're right as in the mic. So I remember speaking to a guy the other day, and he was like, he might have been in his 50s, and he was excited about retirement. He just kept speaking about it. He kept saying, when I retire, I'm going to do this. I thought, holy shit, you're on the way down. You're on the bell curve. You're on your way down. I just remember thinking, that's such a dangerous way to be thinking. Yeah, it's like, because he's told 65, he was excited because he was going to retire at 60. And he's like, when we retire, we're going to do this, this, and this. Yeah. I was like, why are you? And that's what I'm trying my best to try and do now, is create a life I don't want to retire from.
Well, it has its own merits, that thing that he's talking about. Yeah. You want to work all that time, you get your retirement fund, you get the caravan with the missus, and you travel around, whatever it might be. It has its own merits. And I've got a part of me goes, can't wait to go around the caravan too, But there's some of us, and a lot of people will be listening going, no, it's challenge it every step. So even if you do that, you do it by choice, not by thinking that's all there is. Yeah. Do everything from freedom of choice, and it's like, explore. You might not have to pay off, get that superannuation policy and put all your eggs in that basket. Yeah. There's other ways to live.
So with your boot camp thing now that you're doing, how often are you doing that?
So the boot camp for the soul is online. So, I do a bunch of one-on-one work, and I go around, I work with different organisations and people and stuff like that. But the boot camp for the soul is just on trevorhendy.com or soulbootcamp.trevorhendy.com. Yep. But people do it's like a 12-week course, and they go on and they get 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday. They get a morning and evening email. And it's also an audio file, so you can listen to it in audio file if you don't like. So you can drive along and listen to it. Yep. But there's a little 40-minute challenge in the mornings and a 20-minute challenge in the evenings, and you get your own members page and you answer these questions. And it's all about that you already have your own answers. Yeah. So do it in your own life. Do it while you're going to work, And so there's 3-4 week phases in this 12 weeks, because there's an old thing that it takes 3 weeks to change a habit. Yep. So it's beginner level, beginner level is really powerful. A lot of people have stopped at 4 weeks and their whole life's changed, because it's not what I put in there, it's what they get out of it. Yeah. It's just truths. It's truths that have come through a lot of different people. But 3 weeks change, and then a week to integrate. There's a few viewpoints that change, take you through the integration. Then you go to the next level. It's like beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And at the end of 12 weeks, you're exploring your life's purpose and exploring how everything's connected, and quantum mechanics and all sorts of different other really, really cool things that are in there. But we get amazing reviews from it, and I've never promoted it. I only ever talk about it on podcasts. I've never put an ad on anything. Yeah, I just feel people come to it when they're ready. Yeah, I haven't wanted that side of buses thing. Maybe one day it's like I'll try and get it to more people, but I feel people will come to it when they can. And
does it lose its legitimacy a little bit for you if you feel like you're doing that? Like if you feel like you're advertising it, does it feel?
There's something about it.
It's not as organic.
It's because it's not about money. For me, the thing costs $150 to do a 12-week life-changing program. We made it affordable. People told me to charge $1,000 and $1,500. I said, no, $150. Yeah. Because it's enough for people can afford it. Yeah. And I wanted to be able to do it.
Even then, I think, wow, that's that's something you could do. Like it's not. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the whole idea, is that it just make it accessible to people, because a lot of what I've been passed on to, we don't own these viewpoints. It's not like I've got some viewpoints in there that are the ways I've sort of filtered it or channeled it, or the way I talk about it, but they sit in all the great teachings of all, Buddha and Christ and Eckhart Tolle, and if you read their teachings without getting into the indoctrination of it all, well, everyone's been saying the same thing for a long time. There's a lot more conscious people on the planet right now waking up. There's a lot of people we're going through a really big shift right now. And definitely, it's what you alluded to before. There's something going on.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Nothing's original too. So if you're making a conglomeration of all the good parts,
it's flowing through my original flow. I'm adding my flavour to it. Yep. And people listen to it. And I've specifically written it in a way and spoke it through in a way, because I orated it as well. I've spoke it through in a way that's like, it's about you. I'm saying this viewpoint. It's like there's a sign that says cliff, with an arrow on the end of it.
Yep.
The first email is just a sign that says cliff, and then as you go over, it's like it points you to the cliff, and then it says cliff, here it is, and then it's like he step to the edge and fly, and that's what it's all about. It's not about teaching anybody anything. It's about awakening it inside and going, oh, I already know this. This feels like I've known this for years, and that's what we get all the time. I've had husbands send me emails saying, thank you for your boot camp for the soul. It's changed my whole life. My whole life is unbelievably better, and I didn't do it. My wife did. She was having a really hard time, and she's just changed everything else. I'm about to start it now. Like crazy. Yep. What did you put in there? Like, how did that work? My wife's just herself again, and and it's made me realize I need to be better. And
have you got a demographic that's most common with?
Yeah, the awakening demographic. So it's anywhere from there are younger, but probably averaging 25, 26 to sort of 50, 55, 60.
There's some funny periods in there, like late 20s. You're probably still trying to figure out, holy shit, I'm almost 30.
Yeah.
What am I doing with myself? And then obviously the 30-year-olds, you're probably thinking the same thing. Geez, I'm almost 40.
Yeah.
Where's my life going?
Yep.
40, same with 50. It's almost like those stepping stones where you need to know. Like, cause I know I sometimes every year I get older, I think, oh shit, am I achieving what? And I guess probably that's a little bit what's common, or what is what I should have achieved by my certain age.
It's all.
Which is all in my head. It's all my construction in my head.
Feel it right now. You can feel it. You go, oh, right. It's the realization.
And I know it, and I get mad with myself. I think, what does it matter? Like, as long as I'm happy with what I'm doing and people around me are happy, then perfect.
But then the second stage is don't get mad with yourself. Have a laugh at it and go, oh, right, because we're going to mess up every step of the way.
Yeah.
And all those little phases, we step off the rat race or get out. It's like a roundabout.
Yeah.
We're going around and around. We keep going past the exit and seeing it.
Yeah.
And then getting the promise of the next exit, and we go around, and then we come back, and it might be 7 years later for some people. When you starts moving, it happens quicker.
Yep.
But there's I think I was 26, and when I first went through like the major shift, that was 93, 94, and I just had this major shift. It was like all started to happen. We talked about it before, but then years later, I heard John Denver singing Rocky Mountain High, and he went through the same thing. And he went through this awakening. He went from a country artist to a folk artist, because you got to find a category to put him in. But he was actually speaking about all these crazy things. If you listen to the words of his latest songs, he's speaking about awakening, right?
Yeah.
But the song, it's Rocky Mountain High. It says he was born in the summer of his 27th year, which is exactly the age I was. And a lot of people have this. They wake up at about 26 or later, coming home to a place he'd never been before. He left yesterday behind him. You might say he was born again. There comes that thing. You might say he found a key to every door, and it's like, that's exactly how it was like, oh my God, somebody who'd been through the shift before me went, no, mate, just look over there. Look over there. You're going to find yourself, but it's not where you're looking. It's not in fame. It's not in winning. It's not in business. It's not in paying the house off. They're all fine. They're all good. Not a problem at all. There's actually nothing wrong with them.
They're good goals to have.
It's only when you relate purely to them and you lose yourself in them.
Yeah.
Because they're not you. You can do that. That's what you do. It's not who you are.
Yeah. It's dangerous. They say there's two things. I'm not sure the exact quote, but it's you have two lives.
Yep.
The first one, the second one starts when you realise you've only got one.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's sort of similar to
there's some cool quotes like that, isn't there?
That you notice when you're 26.
That you is it like the 1 to 40 years of age, and then you start living after that or something?
Maybe so. Yeah.
It's definitely an age thing as well, and a focus. And you're meant to be frothing and full of testosterone at some stages of your life, and winning and smashing and doing everything. If that's what you're meant to do, then do it.
Yeah.
It's I still helping young guys who are like, I'm actually helping a lot of guys that come into that stage, and I'm helping them be more conscious before they get there.
Yeah.
And they go through it more easily. They don't have to have these giant drops off the planet. They don't have to have huge nightmares.
Yeah. You can sort of stem the fall a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, just be more conscious and aware. You can still choose to have or not have, do or not do, be or not be, anything, but have the power of choice by being more aware.
Nice. Awesome. Well, so how can people get hold of you if they want to?
TrevorHendy.com is pretty simple, and they can send me an email through that as well if they want to connect and ask about anything else. But we do some really cool retreats. We've got men's retreats coming up, the boot camp for the soul. You can access it from there, or soulbootcamp.trevorhendy.com. It's Hendy Trev on Instagram, which goes on every now and then, and Facebook, and trying to put as many messages as we can on. There's some really, really cool different things. I'm working on Life Changer, which is a youth foundation with Scotty Waters out of Melbourne, and just helping kids realise this from 10 to 15 years of age, so they have a more positive self-identity. So people are interested can go to lifechanger.org.au, and we're doing that in schools right throughout South Australia, Victoria, heading to Queensland this year, and schools and sporting clubs, and plenty of ways, but just connect and,
Sure, we'll find you.
Surfers Paradise Surf Club. Come on down and with Jono.
I'm a new member now.
Yeah, redo your bronze or whatever, you know. We've got parking downstairs, and come and enjoy us. And we're trying to get our membership up for locals that are here. We've got a little mission. We want to make a difference, and we really do want to. We now say we've been saving lives, creating everyday heroes since 1925.
Yeah, it's cool.
And that's because kids that grow up, all these people that have grown up in our surf club have gone on to be amazing humans, and other surf clubs as well. And so we're really focusing on raising great young men and women, and not ones that think winning is where it's at. Win any day of the week, no problems, but are you winning on all levels? And that's what we're exploring, and we need to patrol this busy beach. So anyone who's lifesavers that want to come and help us, we need more members.
Sounds like you're the perfect man for the job.
Yeah, that's right. 100 years old we are in 2025. So
wow.
Yeah. So we want to turn that corner with 900 collective members.
Awesome.
So,
well, Trev, I really appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me, Jono.
Pretty cool chat. I sort of didn't expect it to get, it was really enlightening for me too, and I love it. It was really cool, and happy to have you in any time.
Thanks, mate. Part of the family.
Awesome, buddy. Appreciate it.